How many of you are familiar with the concept of a left and right brain? Yeah? Everybody's seen that, right? I'm here to tell you it's total bullshit. Okay. And I actually shaved my head to demonstrate. So, this is the perspective that we have, and we're very biased because we're looking from the top of the head. So we think we have a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. It's actually a little more complicated. I won't go into the big biology of it, but we have the new brain on top. This is the part that's most developed in humans, called the cerebral cortex. The newer parts are called the neocortex. That exists in other animals, but it's bigger in a lot of mammals, especially primates, our monkey cousins, and biggest of all in human beings, in Homo sapiens. But inside of that, if you take those halves apart, you get what's called the limbic system. And this is something that we share with all mammals. So this system is about 300 million years old. The very first mammals that were walking around between the legs of the dinosaurs had these parts, these basic parts. And this is the part of the brain that focuses on emotions. We like something or we hate something. Those are the basic motivations. If we like something, we will move towards it or do more of it. If we hate something, we'll move away from it because it could be dangerous. And in order to use emotions, we also need memory. So this mammalian system added for us the ability to remember things that happened to us. So those are combined very close in the brain. Fear, excitement, and strong emotions, and memory. And below that is the lowest part of the brain, called the brainstem. And this one goes back about 1 billion years ago. And we share it with snakes and crocodiles and lizards and frogs. And this one does very, very basic things. I'll go into a little more detail on each of them. It keeps the lights on, as I like to say. What do I mean by that? How many of you thought about keeping your heart beating while you slept last night? Not so much? How many of you thought to keep your body temperature about 38.6 degrees? Were you regulating that by thinking about it? No, it was happening automatically, and this part of the brain does all of that for you. How many of you thought about digesting that breakfast this morning? No, because digestion is handled by that part of the brain and other body parts as well. So this is really a kind of a more realistic picture, but we can still think of it as 3 different layers. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Star Trek and Mr. Spock, but he's a very logical guy. So in the Star Trek movies, you'd say, well, Captain, there's a 98.6% chance that the Klingons will kill us in this battle. Thank you, Captain Kirk. Thank you, Mr. Spock. So he's a very logical guy. And we like to think that logic and reasoning is our biggest achievement. Let's say I was walking through a door and I opened it and someone was behind me and I closed it. And they hit their face on it. Would that be okay? No, that's unpredictable. It's illogical. Or as we say in California where I live, dude, that's totally random. Okay? You don't want to be random. You want to be predictable. You want people to be able to count on you. You want to be able to drive on the right side of the street and stop when you go to red lights. You don't want to be unpredictable. So we think that logic and reason is our highest achievement, but it's not. Turns out that you actually can't make decisions with the logical mind. That new part, the neocortex, can only give you options. You can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. But it doesn't decide at all. You literally can't make decisions without emotion. And the emotion comes from that mammalian midbrain, the feelings, going towards things we like and away from things that might hurt us. The brain only cares about survival, and that system was developed to actually learn from experience. And that's what it's there for. So memory combined with emotion is really what this is about. And down below that, of course, we have, I don't know how many of you have seen this movie about the 300, about Sparta, but survival at the rawest level. So to kind of summarize, you have 3 brains working together. reacting, feeling, and reasoning. Let's talk more about the lower parts of the brain because we think we understand reasoning, but I want you to think about this. You're lazy. I don't mean I'm lazy, I mean you're lazy. I mean we're all lazy, okay? We don't like to think, we don't like to decide. I'll talk about that a little more later. We like simple choices. Which one is the big dog? The one on the left or the one on the right? Okay, you're going, Tim, it's obvious, right? Well, that's great because we like simple choices. That's simple. But how many of you are, well, in your business model, requiring more complexity or things are a little too similar? A lot of businesses have that, right? We'll talk about how to overcome those problems later. And we're very impatient. Most of my career has been spent in online marketing, and there's something that's been identified, which is how long it takes someone to form a first impression of your website. Do you know how long it takes?
5 seconds.
5 seconds. Nope, that's too long. Anyone else? Guess.
2 seconds.
2 seconds. Yeah, that's a long time, right? Still too long.
Seriously? 1 second?
Less than 1 second.
0.6.
0.6 is still too high. It only takes 50 milliseconds for someone to form a visual first impression of your website. And that's correlated with their likelihood of acting or converting on your site, of taking the action you want. 1/20th of a second. Think about that. We're very impatient and we're good at understanding what's in our environment, but we form that first impression very quickly. So let me sum this up. People are lazy, impatient, and like simple choices. But I want you to do something for me. I want you to change this word people to every one of our potential customers and me. So substitute that. Every one of our potential customers and me are lazy, impatient, and like simple choices. Never forget that. A lot of you are designing marketing and sales processes for brains that are much too logical, much too patient, and much too willing to do the hard work.